Good morning, everybody. John Havlicek here. Welcome to another edition of Common Grounds. This is part 3 in a 4-part series on private school vouchers. Today we're going to talk very quickly about the myth of private school superiority. All right, so let's dive right into it. There is a narrative out there pushed, I think, more on the conservative right that private schools are better. It's almost become an assumption, conventional wisdom. But the fact is it's just not true. The research, when we actually get into it, does not support that at all. Okay? So, first thing we got to talk about is how are we going to measure student success? Or school success, I guess. Are we going to talk about standardized test scores? Are we going to talk about the variety of the programs offered? I don't know. There's any number of things we could talk about. But for this discussion, the most popular one, the one that gets in the news all the time, is test scores. Okay? And we can talk about something like the ACT, which is taken here in the United States. We can talk about something called the PISA, which is taken throughout the entire world. And really, whatever standardized test we talk about, the research indicates that the single highest correlation between test scores and anything else is family wealth. When we talk about thousands and thousands of data points, family wealth is the biggest indicator of how well a kid is going to do on the test. And what we find with the international scores is that the United States has way more childhood poverty than any other westernized nation. And that is a huge impact. And when we just calibrate for that, when we allow for the difference in childhood poverty, the U.S. outperforms every other country in the world. Okay? Now, the same thing is going to be true within the country, within the U.S., that public schools have more childhood poverty. Our students have more problems with things like not having access to high-quality health care. They have more problems with instability in their household due to things like parents' jobs concerns or housing concerns, housing availability, things like that. And when we allow for that, the evidence is pretty compelling that public school students score higher. And public schools then, by extension, do better. And it comes down to a few things. We have a higher trained staff. We offer more programs. Our curriculum is more research-based. And so you don't have to believe me on this. You don't have to just take my word for it. I'd love it if you did, but you don't have to. I'm going to point you to 2 sources that are really, really excellent sources. There's a book called The Public School Advantage by Lubinsky and Lubinsky. And then there's a blog that I read very frequently by Diane Ravitch. And I think it's just dianeravitch.net. But she's an education researcher. She is an expert in education policy and all things public education. And I would encourage you to go find those and do some reading for yourself. But what it comes down to is the narrative does not line up with the facts. Okay? The fact is that public schools do at least as well, if not better, than private school counterparts here in our country. All right? So I'll leave you with that, and I hope you have a good day.